Shubor nakaslem jong nongsan Hima.
Kajing Pynsngewthuh Paidbah kabashisngi kabatep kum kawan day district level sensitization Halor ka Phang combating child trafficking lapan long kum shibanta ka World Day against human trafficking. Yakane kajing Pynsngewthuh Paidbah lapan long the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights ringkat kajing kershan lang ka Meghalaya State Commission for Protection of Child Rights kumjo kibor Penyat district jongka West Giant Hills. Ya ka jing lang lapelong hakas ngi sajan kan riu tari unailar ha conference hall ka office UDC ha ka jing don lang UDC in charge UPK Boro ka chairperson jong Meghalaya State Commission for Protection of Child Rights kong Yamon MCM USP ka West Giant Hills ubikram di Marang ki nongtray ka District Child Protection Unit bat kiway Kakong Yamon MCM chairperson kalabatay bnia Halor ki jing don kam jong ki saheb sarkar kumju ke imlang salang banya trailang habedai ba ka jing syara bor ki khenna kumju bantep ya ka hok jong ki khenna.
You know that child trafficking is a crime and it is very prevalent in many parts of the country India, and sometimes it gives a negative impact towards the courts of our country. That's why to sensitize the various stakeholders, our chairpersons, Ncpcr and state, they are here.
And we need these social markers because they're important to us. We need these to kind of assess, to also realize that people have these days so that because they are of value, they mean something to the society and to us. So it's good every time we have something, a celebration or just remembering certain days. We are grateful because that's time that we learn to sit back and reflect, and work out what are the things of value when we look back and we look forward. So this is a kind of exercise like that. And let me just start maybe from here. As we all are aware, and the police know it, you know it much better than we. In fact, these are vulnerable, areas, especially the woman and child. They are vulnerable. And when we look at history, we see that they are vulnerable. When we go back in history, it's like historically specific that at one point of time, women and of course children were treated as commodities. They're treated as objects, especially in patriarchal societies, but even in matrilineal, there's patriarchy in matrilineal, as many of you have found out, especially relating to domestic violence and so on. So what happens is that if we go back to history, the trade, the flesh trade, the human trade was lucrative, money-making kind of business, organized crime. Some say after drugs, some say after arms. Yeah, arms, we are so paranoid that the whole world, consider arms. But then actually they are the three wicked trio, like arms, drugs, as well as trafficking the human flesh. So this is something for us to remember. That's why it's worth they'll do anything. Traffickers will do anything to get that extra buck. And also, in a way, it's more convenient. I'm sure the police personnel would know this. It's more convenient in the sense that you don't have to put them, you don't have to kind of put contraband in a box or something like that. There are ways of getting away with that, right? So this is something why it seems to be increasing, especially after the pandemic, when some push factors are there. One is economic kind of push. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and just to remind everybody that there are a lot of women who are single parent and they are really stressed. They have been left, they are isolated. So if you look at the data, and if there have been studies, in various parts, where they see that, the other day I also mentioned the feminization of poverty. A lot of women are poor.
It's not an easy task for the police to track multipliers from place to place, and finally sometimes it land up in international level. So madam, I'd like to share the exercise which our West Zentia Hills district has been taking up, and to the House, I'd like to inform our exercise is considered as a good practice by the Assembly Committee for the Women Empowerment when they come and hold a meeting with us. Initially, when I joined before 2 years, I was looking at the crime rate, and all the crime constitute mainly POCSO cases. We call it crime against women and children. So what we did with my team, we identified the hotspots. And finally, we could narrow down into 14 villages. We did little bit of analyze, research, what is the major constituents of this perpetration in this crime called crime against women and children. And then we tie up with a team which was legal services from state is very kind enough to give me one team which is called Access to Justice. Specifically, the team given for the Northeast and Jammu Kashmir. They came down to the district, hold a workshop with my officers. Then they started going out to these 14 villages where we have identified as a hotspot. And we start our vigorous campaign incorporating, number one, the women folks of the villages. Number two, teenagers. Number three, religious institutions.